because so
Yeah,
I like
sure.
to think kind of first principles level, and I like everything you're saying. So I want to probe it. That self
Yeah.
actualization, that realizing who we are. I would have to imagine, and you tell me based on your work, because obviously I know you work with lots of different people on this. I would imagine there's at least a portion of people who struggle to do that or to find that because they're afraid of what they're going to find. They're afraid that who they really are is something that they don't like or that they shouldn't be. Now, that's an interesting thing, right? I say philosophical because I'm curious your take on that. When you look at us at our bare essence, our raw core of who we are as humans, are we all kind of the same and neutral in the same thing? So there is nothing to fear. Are we all good and beautiful and loving? So again, still nothing to fear. Or are there ugly parts to us that it makes sense that we fear? Or are those ugly parts just external kind of manifestations? That's not like, how do you think about that part of it? Is there something we should be afraid of when we look inward?
That's that's a huge package. Holy smokes, I
Yeah,
love this.
let's get right into it.
Let's do this. So, what is fear?
Mm,
It's your interpretation of what you think might happen,
mm,
right?
mm,
So, fear wouldn't even exist if you have love of self,
mm, mm.
right?
Yeah.
So, it would be dead in the water anyway.
But that assumes and I guess this gets back to the question, should we blindly love ourselves? Maybe that's the question. Is it okay to blindly love ourselves for whatever we are? I think the answer feels like it should be yes, but is it?
So interesting. Is it even possible to blindly love oneself?
Mm,
Because you've got all your experiences. You can't separate yourself from your life experiences,
mm,
right?
mm, mm,
But you can integrate, incorporate, and tap into your true essence. And that's where I believe you start to add what makes sense for you. And ultimately, my goal for everybody on this earth is to be so enriched within your own skin that you don't have to, but you want to because the curiosity is there, but you don't have to go out to source beyond yourself.
mm, mm. So the idea is we should be, and these, I don't say this in a negative way because cliches are
Yeah.
cliches for a reason. Cliches are good things. So we should be enough. Just who we are, what we are, should be enough. So when you run into people that do have self-loathing or self-hate, or they're super harsh and judge themselves, what, why do they do that? Where does that come from? Why, I guess, and again, I'm not judging that to be like, what's
Yeah.
wrong with them? Why do they do
No,
that? I do it.
for
We all do
no,
it. What is the
for
source of
sure.
that?
There's a number of sources, but a lot of times my experience has been it's what they have chosen to believe, right? And so they've taken something that they have heard or felt from another and absorbed it and made it part of what some people call paradigm, made it part of their
Mm,
story, and then they add the belief to it. Sometimes that happens because they want to be able to just stay where they are because you talked about the fear,
mm,
right? I don't know if I want to
mm,
go down
mm,
that road. What road is that? Like you don't know what. And so fear of the unknown can be huge for people.
mm,
But when we do it in small chunks, that's why I say every day, a little bit every day. When we do it in small chunks, things can shift huge with little pieces of momentum. You don't have to go into the bush and do like I'm not, you don't have
mhm,
to cut yourself off from the world. Just start noticing, just
mm,
start tuning in, just start taking those big breaths and sit and what comes up for you, right? If it's the thoughts and oh, who am I? What am I about? You're trying to answer a question that you've already got a history of that it's not going to be true. So when you sit in your silence and feel, right? Even just try and listen to your heart and see what comes up. Crazy powerful. It's
mm,
so hard to do,
mm,
but it's so, once you actually tap, it's huge. It's huge.
mm.
Really, really
Yeah, I
huge.
mean, I get it, and it makes sense logically too, because as you said it, as you start thinking about, who am I, or am I good enough, or whatever it is, your reference point that your mind goes to answer that question is your history and your experiences and what you've been told and what all that stuff. So naturally, it becomes almost like this incestuous thing, which by definition, you're only going to get that in response. And what you're saying is you have to try and somehow bypass that. And it's interesting because part of it is, as you said, internally just listening and trying to see what's really there. But there's also a part of almost like trial and error where you go out and test it and say, huh, is that real? And you see what that looks like. And it's not a clean, easy equation. As you said, it's very hard, but you're trying to get more clarity on what that really is. Let me ask this, because I'll ask for myself, but I imagine some people would think it. That step of sitting and listening
Yeah.
and trying to figure out who you truly are, what does that actually look like? Because for a lot of people, they might say, I do mindfulness now, right? And I think as many people do, I do my best, but we all struggle because our mind keeps going. Some people would sit and try and listen to that. And what they hear is that old voice and kind of, how can they tell, like, what allows them to know they're actually tapping into their true self versus just that voice?
It's a great question and it's a process.
Mm,
Um, the one thing that is so grounding and powerful is being in nature.
mm,
So when you go out into nature, and I say that physically, of course, go and put yourself into nature, and you can, I mean, there are trails all around the world, right? Sometimes steps from your house and
yeah.
you don't even access. Go into nature. And when I say go, I don't mean just physically, I mean tune in. I want you to smell. I want you to not taste necessarily because you don't want to get in, right? But smell, listen, watch, see what is happening. Mother Nature is naturally balanced. And when you tune yourself into her, you will start to access things within yourself you didn't know were possible.